NuGrowth connections and our prospectus. My story, we'll touch on my story a little bit. So I played 10 years in the NHL. I won 2 Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks. I was forced to retire at the age of 30 after 7 diagnosed concussions due to post-concussion syndrome. So when I retired, I was dealing with balance issues, headaches, head pressure, insomnia, impulse control issues, light sensitivity, slurred speech, headache, head pressure, short-term, long-term memory loss, appetite loss, on top of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. I retired in 2015. And when I retired, the first thing that doctors did was diagnose me with CTE, which is a neurological degenerative disease, which there's no cure. And they started to put me on pharmaceuticals for the first 4 years. I tried a number of different pharmaceuticals. And after I quit cold turkey because they were exacerbating other symptoms, I started to go to CTE brain banks and stroke rehabilitation centers. And along that path, I also came across holistic tools like float tanks, hyperbaric chambers, Moxa acupuncture, things like craniosacral that can decompress the brain, hormone replacement therapy because of the pituitary gland and where it sits in a very rigid part of our skull. I understood that my hormones were off, and no amount of vestibular training or ocular training was going to fix that. I looked at myself in the mirror in 2019. This is 4 years after I retired, and I was still no better. One thing that was an advantage was that I was listening to all of the best medical professionals on earth about what had happened to me and how I could fix it. I was also reading every PubMed paper I could about concussion and brain injury and how I can basically, in a nutshell, flush out inflammation and reconnect brain hemispheres that were shut down due to trauma that were causing my symptoms. So in 2019, on the edge of suicide, actively planning to unburden my family and my 3 young kids and my wife. You know, you tend to, when you're suffering so much, become a burden to these individuals. I was invited to a decriminalized city in Denver, Colorado. And what was decriminalized was psilocybin, mushrooms containing psilocybin. And I started to look at the research. In 2017, there was a study done, which I saw was done under fMRI, 2 brains, 1 placebo without the mushrooms and 1 with the mushrooms. And what I saw were right and left brain hemispheres communicating. If you can see this little image here behind us, these new neuronal connections were being made that had never been seen before. So I accepted the invitation to the farm. I diagnosed or took new diagnostics. So I did a brain scan before I left and some blood work, because if this could work, it's so highly stigmatized. I needed to be able to prove to individuals by not just saying it and showing it that this could work for them. Because there's well over 100 million people in this world continuing to suffer from post-concussion syndrome. And again, there's no FDA-approved medicine for it. I woke up the next morning. I won't go too much into how difficult the journey was, but I did a very high dose. I did 5.6 grams. And what happens with this medicine is it exacerbates what's at the forefront of your mind. So it showed me my suicidality. So I was able to look at it, realize that I was the one creating my own heaven or my own hell at that point, and that tomorrow I could change it immediately. And this medicine helped me realize that. I woke up the next day, and that's what I did spiritually and mentally. Now, what also happened was I called my wife, and she said, wow, your speech sounds so much better. Your eyes look better. I went outside on the farm. I had no light sensitivity on day 1. And then all of a sudden, those symptoms that I told you about either lessened in intensity or all but started to fade away. So I immediately was blown away, and this is how I came to this industry. You know, if you want to call it the psychedelic industry or the education of these experiential medicines and how they work and how they can work for other individuals. You know, I know that there's a lot of talk of people, you know, claiming that this has impacted them, but this has truly transformed my life. So the first thing that I did was I started to work on policy, and I used my platform to get Initiative 81 passed in Washington, D.C. So we got these mushrooms as well as MDMA and some other natural occurring substances like ibogaine that helped whiz so much we got that decriminalized in Washington, D.C. And I thought that was pretty cool that you could use the stories alongside veterans that got trauma in different arenas and influence policy. I then founded WeSana Health, where I patented the regimen that worked for me, and we took it through an FDA program. That's what I was focused on the last 3 years of my life. I recently sold that program as well as the 3 psychiatrist-led clinics to a NASDAQ-listed company. And the clinics and that knowledge will come into play here later in the deck. And then I started to offer my story to Measure 109, which is what we're going to talk about next. Measure 109 is a program in Oregon. It is the first legal launched psilocybin therapy that you can do. Now, it's still federally illegal, just like cannabis in all of the 32 states that cannabis is approved. But this is the first time where you can go to a state and have regulation of a Schedule I drug that you are allowed to take without being criminalized for it. So that means that there are licensed facilitators. There are licensed service centers, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today, and this is the opportunity, as well as licensed manufacturers that grow the mushrooms and licensed testers of the mushrooms. I don't think I have to go into the psychedelic timeline and events and Nixon's war on drugs. You guys are pretty familiar with it. In 2018, I will mention that the FDA designated 2 different companies, Compass Pathways, who's developing a synthetic psilocybin, so an extract of these mushrooms that I'm talking about, for treatment-resistant depression. They were deemed to have FDA breakthrough therapy designation, as well as USONA, who's developing it for major depressive disorder. And this is really when we started to advocate and begin the psilocybin services petition. Based off of the strength of what the FDA said, they basically deemed that it was safe. Denver votes to decriminalize psilocybin in 2019. That's how I got better. Oregon via Measure 109. We built the framework. I offered my story. Colorado legalized psilocybin to appear on the Denver ballot. That's Prop 122. That is the 2nd state that's going to open up in probably a year. And now in 2023, January 1, we launched in Oregon. Scheduling psilocybin does not reflect the harm. Psilocybin ranks lowest according to total harm and abuse liability across all other substances. So if everybody can, wipe out your brain, and we are just talking about mushrooms. There is no LD50, which means the lethal dose. The lethal dose of psilocybin mushrooms is over 1,500 grams. You cannot eat enough mushrooms to try to harm yourself. Mental health in Oregon, obviously, as you look at these stats, and everyone has the deck, 34% of individuals reporting anxiety and depressive disorders. Drug overdoses are prevalent. Reporting alcohol abuse is prevalent. And this is why we really targeted Oregon as the first state to try to get this open. Measure 109, the answer, as I mentioned, the OHA's legalized psilocybin services for anybody older than 21. Now, we do not, and I know that this question is going to come up, and I'll address risk and the risk tolerance that I have being, a green card holder from Canada. We do not call people patients. We call people clients. And this landmark bill has allowed us to regulate the manufacturing, the testing, the transportation, and the sale of these psilocybin products. Clients, again, will not require a medical diagnosis or a recommendation from a physician for therapy. Each municipality had the ability to either opt out or opt in. So we know the landscape of where we can put these facilities. There's not a lot known really about how to access psilocybin services. A lot of people advocate, well, it can only be done in nature. A lot of people say that, it can and should be done in a more regulated setting if you have a very specific intention of why you want to do this medicine. So the way that I came to psilocybin was a mix of both. So I was on a farm. The ceremony started inside. I needed access to nature, which this facility later in the deck I'll show you does have. But for the most part, I was inside. And I was surrounded by 2 individuals who I could call facilitators that helped lead me through difficult points in the ceremony, which sometimes do arise, especially at the 5-gram dose. Now, the highest dose in Oregon that we can give is 2.5 grams. So we are not even allowed to go next to that high dose. There are preparation sessions. So if a client qualifies based off of, and we have the Johns Hopkins intake form that we will be using, based off of their family history, as well as the medication that they're currently on, as well as how they identify. So meaning if they identify coming to us with treatment-resistant depression in the first year or two, unfortunately, we're probably not going to treat those types of clients. We are going to stick to a very specific clientele, and we're going to stick to supporting No Fallen Heroes and Wiz as well in a group session. Somebody comes to us, we understand and prepare them as much as we can. So on the front end, we get to know this individual and what might arise in these ceremonies. We collect some baseline data. We also have some wearables from my previous company that will be integrated into an EMR system. I believe that baseline data is going to be extremely important in collecting this. It can be another revenue stream in the future. And then assuming that those two things go well, we have our first dosing session. And then what we do is we integrate the session. So again, not a lot known about psilocybin therapy, but it is essentially a tool and a technology that I use with athletes, executives, and myself, because I no longer suffer from any symptoms, and I haven't for the last 4 years, to upgrade your software, so to speak, to get better. If I can't solve a problem and I can't do it through exercise, nutrition, meditation, then I go in on a very low dose and I ask the medicine to show me what's wrong. Then I integrate those lessons that I learned from the ceremony into my everyday life. So this is a tool to be able to wake up somebody, the nervous system, the brain, to be able to, in a nutshell, have them use better habits moving forward. If somebody wants a second dosing session and wants to stay in town, that can happen 72 hours after the first. There'll be more integration sessions and then maintenance sessions. So in the model, I have not included anything about the revenue that's going to be derived from integration, so to speak, or essentially just life coaching, which will be ongoing for the life of the clients that come to our facility. Obviously, there's a high interest level in psychedelic therapy. 84% of the population surveyed responded that they would use psilocybin. Psilocybin has a lot of momentum because it's so safe. It is the safest and the most natural psychedelic out there and the most well-known. Also the most studied. I believe there was a survey, and over 30 million people in the United States have admitted to using psilocybin. And those are the ones that have just come out of the closet. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. So you've heard about the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. I believe that with our team, we have the right approach. I believe that with the knowledge that I have over the last 6 years of being in this industry, as well as the doctors that I've compiled, as well as the intake forms, as well as the very specific ways that we do these ceremonies, I've done over 200 in the last 6 years underground with no adverse effects. Our approach in this urban center, which is the first, will be to use low to mid doses. There will be no high doses in this facility. That allows us to address a broader audience. Group therapy will be available at specific hours of operation with our veteran groups. Wiz and No Fallen Heroes are obviously part of the social equity plan, and we will address them accordingly, and they will have full access to the facility whenever they please. We have partners, there are over 208 facilitators that are trained by the OHA. We have an operations partner in Subtle Winds that is one of those certified facilitator training programs. They have over 75 facilitators trained as well. Now, only 5 of them have gone through and paid the $2,000 to get their license. That's because they're waiting for a service center to open to practice in. So I say all of this because there are numerous facilitators at our disposal who can sit with people for the medicine work, and that is going to be directly correlated to your revenue. And then we will obviously collect all of this operational IP and expand to other locations in Oregon and across the nation, specifically Colorado, when it opens up. So our approach, again, in this urban center, low dose. So in Oregon, it's pretty much where psilocybin kind of was born with the Grateful Dead. There's a lot of knowledge about it. So people are less likely to pay the $3,000, $2,500 to $5,000 that we are asking them to pay. So in this 19 facilitation room, think of a WeWork space where individuals can come and take low doses. So we can build through a subscription model. Think of a WeWork space of a coffee shop, a calming environment with the optionality to be flexible, as well as having these rooms segregated at the back, which are they are very noise proof, as well as just ideal spaces to be able to take people through the low to mid doses as well. So we'll utilize our facilitators, over 75 of them, and the model and the revenue associated with this is extremely conservative. We are projecting all of that revenue to be a flow through with only 2 big dose ceremonies a day. So that's 10 a week. And we have that wait list of over 2,700 people that we'll get into here in a little bit. The scalability and the capital efficiency, reduce the risk and the capital outflows. There's no need for any renovation. We might add 1 door, but that will be in the future. Leverage expansion, lower the cost of accessibility, which means more people through the door. So there's 3 rooms at the front. This is not included in the model, but people can come in, take a microdose, stay within the facility for 30 minutes, and then they can leave and go to their job, go to whatever they need to do during the day on a microdose. So that'll be a subscription model that we will offer. There are over 7,000 clients on the OHA's wait list wishing to experience psilocybin therapy. There just aren't enough service centers right now, so the demand outweighs the supply. Tiered membership model we will introduce as a phase 2. Again, that is just creating community as well as getting people through the door more often to experience, things like breath work and yoga, etc., on a microdose, and then going off. Think of a gym-like membership. So mid to high doses, we will stick to the mid doses. That will also be a tiered membership model. What we advocate for is 1 dose a quarter, and we'll also be offering these multi-day, all-inclusive immersive retreats. People will be staying at an Airbnb. We'll have private chefs. So for example, I already have 3 of these planned with a group of former athletes and individuals that played in the NHL. Once they get out of their season, come September, they're all going to come for a reset after the year. And then again, we're going to be collecting all of this outcome data very poignantly. So our phase 1 strategy is to be anchored by this urban healing center. In the future, we will look to get a retreat center, which is more focused on the higher doses with access to nature and being able to actually do these ceremonies in nature. So phase 1 strategy, the tiered model, the low to mid sessions, as well as the advantage of having the 75 qualified facilitators and 2,700 qualified individuals on our exclusive waitlist with healing maps ready to experience this therapy. Now, I don't want people to get too confused. Mushroom strains do different things. Different mushrooms do different things. Some mushrooms are more intense. Some mushrooms are more heart opening, similar to MDMA. Some mushrooms will take you on a visual trip. They're a lot more visual in a sense. So we are eventually going to be getting into manufacturing very, very low cost and barrier to entry with novel cubensis strains. So think of when you go to a cannabis facility or dispensary, there's different strains that do different things. There's different mushrooms that will do different things, and we'll have a menu of that in the future. Our clients, I'm a community-oriented guy, always have been, with concussion survivors, with veterans. Curious beginners, I think, are going to be a large target. Our community members, I have about 3,500 people that I've amassed that are obviously very interested in coming to this facility. That's on top of the 2,700 person wait list that we have, and that's on top of the 7,000 person wait list that the OHA has. These are just people that have followed me over social media. I've got over 250,000 followers, and obviously this is something that has completely transformed my life and that I talk about daily. Executives, hybrid, remote workers, as well as athletes are going to be a big group of individuals. Now, these people aren't suffering from PTSD. These people aren't suffering from depression. They aren't suffering from anxiety. So there's a very low risk to introducing this medicine to individuals. And that is one of my goals this year, is to try to explain how I use this medicine once every 6 months now to just sharpen the knife, to focus myself in, to be more in the present moment when I'm making decisions, when I am with my kids, etc. So, but veterans are obviously, with No Fallen Heroes and Wiz, as you heard, they will have access to our facility whenever they deem fit. We will treat them accordingly with the social equity plan at cost. So that will bring down, we'll be treating them, and Wiz and No Fallen Heroes will be able to save about 80% of what they're currently paying right now. Our lead generation, we have an exclusive data agreement with Healing Maps. So we have a page on Healing Maps which has over 300,000 hits a month of organic traffic. Think of Weed Maps that lists every single marijuana dispensary. Healing Maps lists every single ketamine facility, as well as retreat centers in Costa Rica, etc. So that's how we've amassed this 2,700 person wait list, and we will continue to use them in an exclusive manner. Once we're open, there will be a big media push. I have a curated music playlist from the Alan Watts organization. He's a philosopher that has been extremely impactful in my recovery. And I believe in ceremony, the number one thing that we're trying to do is empower individuals to take control of their lives and to change their lives. Change is hard, but listening to Alan and always having him on these playlists and in our clinic for people to delve into will help support their healing journey. The operations, we have a holistic management company that will help with all of the intake processes, etc. We also have Subtle Wins, who's going to be owning the license, the Lux, and taking on the liability of running the facility with the direction of us, obviously. Advocacy in our 501c3 partner, No Fallen Heroes and Wiz, you guys know who he is, as well as Melissa Lavasani and the Psychedelic Medicine Coalition. We've done, I've done 2 congressional briefings on the Hill. We will eventually take this data that we amass to the Hill and present it. Our key advantages are our lead generation, the exclusive partnership with Healing Maps, which will continue, and as well as just, you know, as I mentioned, the demand is far outweighs the supply. Our operations partner allows us exclusive access to 75 facilitators at our fingertips. Again, we're only thinking of using 6 in the beginning, so I'm trying to be extremely conservative when I am showing people the amount of revenue that we're going to be generating. Subtle Wins has already trained 35 facilitators in their first cohort, 22 in their second, and they'll be training 100 come February 1st. State of the market, again, our facility room is the largest and will be the largest in Oregon. It has 19 provider rooms, which all can be used for psilocybin therapy, 7,000 person wait list. Now there's over 2,700 on Healing Maps. I checked in yesterday. There's only 21 approved Oregon psilocybin services currently in operation. 11 of those are retreat centers. Obviously, I think everybody knows what the weather's like in Oregon. It's going to be difficult to get people there for around 8 months of the year in nature. So again, most of these rooms of the urban centers, the highest capacity that they have are 3 rooms. So that is why the demand is far outweighing the supply. The average cost for a psilocybin session, which might sound high, but it is not, is $2,500 to $5,000. So we will use a sliding scale similar to what Finland does. My friends of the NHL, they can pay $5,000 to $7,500, and I will charge them that. And then that cost and that profit will trickle down in our social equity plan to Wiz and to other veterans and to individuals that can't afford this therapy. As a service provider, we'll also look to rent some of these rooms out to other facilitators. That's not included in the model, but it is front of mind in order to generate more revenue. Over 1,000 facilitators are expected to be trained by the end of this year on top of our network of 75. And investors, you guys will have the ability to capitalize on investing in real estate, which is right downtown Eugene and an appreciating asset, as well as the upside of having equity in our company, as well as the upside of having 15% dividend payments yearly. So once our model is proven out with 2 facilities, we'll take on consulting payments as well as large equity holdings in other facilities. Let me pull this up. There's a company called American Cannabis Company. One of the models that they did was get approved for a license and then take down consulting gigs. They amassed a revenue of over $20 million in the first 2 years. In Oregon, it's very specific right now. The reason that there's so few facilities is because you have to have an Oregonian holding 51% of a license, okay? That drops at the end of this year. Now, I am Canadian, okay? I am on a green card. I am not too interested. My risk appetite is a little bit less right now, and I'm not too interested in being on a Schedule I license. I know that investors are not too interested in investing in a Schedule I license. You are not investing in a Schedule I license. You are investing in NuGrowth Connections, which is a C Corp. Our IP will include scheduling, training, treatment protocols, record-keeping software, dosing regimens, preparation, integration sessions, operational know-how, as well as filing successful licenses. All right. We will be taking in funds, and through an MSA agreement, a master services agreement, which is what I use for my 3 clinics in Illinois. In Illinois, a for-profit company cannot own a medical facility. So the doctor that I had when I operated these facilities had to own the license. This is a very similar structure. And what we did through a master services agreement is we funded the operations, and then we also scraped back all the revenue associated with the operations. NuGrowth Connections in the Eugene property will be held underneath the C Corp in an LLC, and we'll be collecting the monthly payments as a pass-through. And then Subtle Winds, which is our operations partner, will have their own C Corp. We'll have no equity holdings in Subtle Winds. They'll have their own LLC where the service center license will be held and where the LUX will be held, which is a land use capability statement. That just means that, it's not within 1,000 feet of a school, etc. And then they'll have a separate LLC with their training programs and facilitator IP. Now, I know that there's a lot of, people might think that there's a lot of risk associated with something like this, but this is a classic structure that cannabis has employed. So if something does happen, right, we have a lot of parameters in place to ensure that it doesn't, as far as the intake forms, etc. But if something does happen, obviously these individuals are going to go after Subtle Winds LLC, number 2, as well as Subtle Winds Inc. C Corp, and we'll be shielded at least at some level from a potential lawsuit. If we're not, then what we do is we would transfer the funds, bankrupt the LLC, and then open up a new one and continue to operate. Our properties of interest currently under LOI, you can see at the top, is our Eugene, Oregon property. It's 5,600 square feet. It does contain 21 separate offices, 1 and a communal space that we'll use for group therapy with Wiz. 2 of these offices are already being used as a break room as well as a medicine room that will be deployed. There's a second facility that is still in the urban space in Portland, Oregon, that we're less interested in now. We currently have this first property under LOI. So this is a hybrid investment. The minimum investment is $15K, and we're providing a security interest of an appreciating real estate asset combined with a profit share and equity in our operating company. The property, the LOI is accepted at 1.3 million. Legal and accounting to get this off the ground is around 40,000. The OHA service center license is 10,000. The facility startup cost is 150,000, as well as 6 months of staffing, 200,000. So we're raising 1.7 million on a $6 million valuation. I already have 700,000 soft circled. So we just need another $1 million to get this open and operational. I also have 2 debt quotes on the property, so that will help in getting this off the ground. We have a 15% yearly dividend on profits to investors. You'll have an exit yield on the real estate, as well as an equity stake in this operating company that is at the forefront of these psilocybin service centers that will eventually be all over the nation. Colorado is next, and I'll be traveling to Springfield in early February in Illinois, where we introduced the CURE Act. So Illinois is well on track to be the 3rd state to open up. This is a very conservative model, and I can circulate the model for anybody interested in looking at it. We've projected, again, 2 ceremonies a day. So that's 10 a week, and we are only utilizing 6 of the 75 facilitators right now. The reason that I projected it so low is to underpromise and overdeliver. We have a scientific advisory board of Dr. Robert Kaufman. He's a retired U.S. Navy captain, over 30 years of clinical operation and leadership experience. He's also a MAPS trained therapist. He's sat on my board for WeSauna Health for the last 4 years. An amazing man with amazing connections, and somebody that I highly respect and I'm excited to continue to work with on this project. Dr. Martin Polanco, Wiz knows him well. You guys have probably heard his name, The Mission Within. He's activating veterans, and he's also then training veterans to become facilitators or these therapists and integration specialists, which is beyond amazing. My contact information, and again, I just appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate your consideration. I will end on, without big risk, there's not big reward. And although there is some risk to this investment, the way that we've structured it, I feel very confident that, with my ability to be able to use intake forms and leverage my relationships in this industry for the last 6 years to mitigate those risks. And to be at the forefront I'll be 39 on January 28th, as a young man, to be on the forefront and cutting edge of these therapies that will undoubtedly dominate the landscape of both FDA approved treatments and statewide protocols. I feel very honored and blessed. So I'll end there. Thank you for your time, and I would love to field any and all questions.
Awesome, Commodore. I appreciate that, bro. Very well done. Not sure if you can hear me or not, but folks, great presentation from my brother Daniel. Just an incredible human being, leading with his heart and his truth. And you guys know me. I think the world of Daniel. If you want, the deck is over here underneath handouts over on the right-hand side. If you want to download the deck, so you have a copy of it, and then obviously his emails on the screen. I'm in it to win it. I absolutely fully support this stuff. We've had some good success with other initiatives. Obviously, the Healing REIT. Daniel's deeply involved in microdoses, one of the original founders of microdoses. So this is all part of the same universe. So again, in it to win it. Really couldn't be more full throttle. Charles, yep, this was recorded. Let me edit the beginning when we had a little audio issues, and I'll go ahead and get the replay out if you guys joined a little late. I love the fact that they're going to give back to the No Fallen Heroes Foundation. They're going to help heal our nation's heroes. There's a ton of veterans looking for help, as you guys know, and Daniel and all these guys pitching in to the fight just makes my heart smile. Daniel, can you hear me? Are you still up?
Yeah, I got you.
I don't know if you can see the questions. Let me read some of these. So Lawrence is asking, how will payout be made and tax records be sent to us? Would we receive a 15% cash dividend plus some distribution of profits and a K1? Question mark.
So I believe it'll be yearly in the first year, and it'll be that 15% distribution on profits. And then, obviously having that equity holding in the building when and if it does get sold, there'll be a distribution there as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bob, will microdoses products be sold at the facility?
Absolutely, they will be. Yeah. So one of the main things that that you need after a psilocybin therapy session is, because you're highly stimulated, is to go to bed. So we'll be using all of the rest products, as well as individuals can take home the Ascend, since they are legal mushrooms. And just an update on my crew, the production run has been completed on our drink, and it's being sold now into smoke shops, as well as other avenues. We have the meeting with Live Nation, so everything's going really, really well with my crew.
That's awesome. Bruce, 15% on profits. How much profit are you predicting per year?
So I have the model as well, Bruce. So that's in the model, and I'd be happy to share it with everybody as part of this package. So if anybody would like to view the model, happy to again get that out to you.
Chris, you may have covered it. Is this not part of the Healing REIT? Is there a plan to be integrated into that group?
Yeah, so obviously, with things being, with the REIT wanting to go public, et cetera, we've left this off because we didn't know how it might affect a public listing on the New York Stock Exchange in 2025. But in the future, so the way that things work in this country, right now, psilocybin, although it's been deemed FDA breakthrough therapy designation with 2 different companies, there's no approved medicine for it yet. Compass Pathways in phase 2, they're the closest, so they're probably another year to 2 years away from approval. Once it does get approved, then it gets descheduled. Once it gets descheduled, then the REIT can go out and start buying these properties and putting everything up. Wiz, who had the question about profit?
Bruce, 15% on profits. How much profit are you predicting per year? That was Bruce.
Okay, so in year 1, Bruce, net income after taxes, 678,000. Year 2, 754,000. Year 3, 954,000. And again, year 2 and 3 is a ramp up of 3 people a day and then 4 people a day. And so these are extremely conservative numbers. So again, I'll send out the startup budget year 1 and then the 3-year consolidated financials to anybody interested.
Paul, any debt financing or just investor money?
Debt financing in the sense of the building, does he mean?
It just says any debt financing or just investor money.
So investor money right now, as far as equity holdings and then owning the building, we are looking at bringing on debt once the debt markets loosen up a little bit on the actual building to free up some cash. I've got 2 quotes, one at 6% and one at 6.5% on 60% leverage on the building. So we could utilize that.
Yeah, perfect. He said, yeah, it was on the building. Okay. Good.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I've got 2 debt quotes on the building.
Bob, I think he answered that one, right? Is the goal to sell the company to the Healing REIT?
No. Healing REIT is simply going out and buying real estate. But once these approvals do come down, the REIT could look to purchase these buildings from us to unlock more cash to expand more rapidly. Absolutely.
Correct. I like that.
Yeah.
Dave, on my phone, can't get the PDF file. I'll email it out to everybody. Or folks, if you're interested, just email the Commodore directly. Here's his his email.
Yeah. Do
So
you want me to
Dave,
put, how do
yeah,
I
just
put the email in? You got it?
yeah.
Perfect.
ddcarcillo@gmail
Yes.
dot com. So
.com.
perfect. Awesome. I think that is all the questions. Uh,
Okay.
awesome, bro. Hey, again, folks, you guys know me. I'm in it to win it in all of this stuff. This is going to be a massive year. On the screen over here, I'm looking at a tie and MindMed starting to do a nice little pop today too.
Yeah,
2024.
I think Wiz, as you know, and everybody knows, like when MDMA does get approved, and we've talked about this, Wizzy, like I think that there's a lot of really nice headwinds behind us.
Hmm.
And people that have been in this industry have seen it, explode, like when
Yeah.
it started in 2018 with MindMed, et cetera. Then
Yep.
they've seen it implode, similar to cannabis. And then the ones that have made it through this downturn, are going to be the true survivors and the true winners,
Hmm.
So, and
Yep.
yeah. So just yeah, massively
Two
excited for 2024.
last couple, three more questions, and we'll let Daniel go. Bruce, is there a minimum investment?
Yeah, 15,000, Bruce.
Okay. Other Daniel, any approval or looking for overseas testing, etc.?
Any approval or looking for overseas testing?
Uh,
Um,
testing was a separate question mark after that. Any approval or looking for overseas? Are you looking at overseas clinics, maybe? Daniel's asking.
no, I'm all in on America. I believe that there's going to be less and less people going to
Yep,
Jamaica, going to Costa Rica. There's no need. You just need to go to
correct.
Oregon, and then you need to go to Colorado, and then you need to go to Illinois.
Yeah, we were actually bumping up against this with some of our veterans, right? Some of our veterans and first responders who are kind of in a really bad place. Some of them are having some problems with Uncle Sam, right? So especially
Yeah.
if you're not
Well, now
doing
the
too
barrier
well
to
with,
entry come much
yeah,
lower, right, Liz? So, and
exactly.
that's the whole goal here, right? Like all day long, for sure. When I went to do my therapy in that saved my life, like it was $2,500,
Yeah,
and listen, man, that's a lot of money even for me. So
exactly.
I understand. But with this social equity plan, like we will charge the individuals that can afford it, which we have a lot of them, and then that will trickle down. That'll trickle down through to No Fallen Heroes and anybody that needs it that can't afford it. Now that being said,
Yeah,
I've done these retreats. People have to have skin in the game, so they just have to they got to get themselves there with a
correct.
flight. But the flight, to
Yeah,
Oregon, they're pretty cheap.
yeah. Agree with that. A couple more. Uh, Martin, what does one do if they want to invest?
Just email me and we can send you over the sub docs and you can take a look. And yeah, we'd love to have you. By
AP,
the way, I've funded this project by myself up until this point, and like I said, the 700 soft circled, as well as this is kind of the official first day where we're taking funds, and I'll find a way to continue to fund this in the future if I have to.
I love it. AP, I think he's a fighter pilot from overseas, man. But AP asks, is the investment available to international investors? Not all REITs are.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's good to hear.
absolutely. Yeah, the REIT is and this project, absolutely.
Jim, would this therapy help people with drug addiction?
Absolutely, it would. At the crux of drug addiction is trauma, right? We're not born drug addicts. We're not born addicts.
Correct.
And so you've heard Wiz talk about this, right? So what this medicine does is it allows individuals that want to stop abusing their body and their mind with substances to look at their trauma, to face it head on, so that it doesn't govern the rest of their life. And if you do that in a ceremony, then when you get out of the ceremony, you do not need the numbing agent. You don't need the
Mhm.
alcohol, you don't need the opiate, etc. You don't have the cravings of it either.
Right.
So absolutely, this can help. I believe there's a company developing an IV psilocybin for AUD, alcohol use disorder, through the FDA.
Hmm. Yeah, man. This is the way, folks. You guys know me and Daniel. A lot of you have gotten a chance to meet Daniel. We're both in it to win it. If we weren't, if we hadn't done this, we wouldn't be talking like this, right? So I jokingly call this the world's greatest Ponzi scheme. You get in, you heal yourself, you put the ladder down to help your fellow woman and help your fellow man. Love you, Daniel. Thanks for all of this, bro.
I love you
He's
too, buddy.
Daniel's accessible. Shoot him an email. He'll give you his cell phone. You can call him and shoot the shit. He's a great
Yeah.
soon to be American. He's a great current Canadian,
I
but
get
I
it. I
can't.
applied for immigration. Let's go. And also, too, I'll preface this: like, if people aren't interested in the investment and just want to get in touch with me to learn more about how this could impact their lives, as well as a loved one that might be suffering, and what I can offer is, consulting and just helping people get connected to this right now. So I want to put that out there as well.
Hey, real quick, Daniel, when you get this initial round of angels, do we close and go to a bigger round? Because I know some people at the REIT, they're like, damn it, I should have acted quick because now I can't get in this round. Is there what's the schedule
This is
looking
going
like?
to be no. This is going to be the only raise.
That's what I figured.
We're not going to need any other funds.
Awesome. So, folks, the reason I bring that up is because a lot of you kind of ping me every once in a while, like, dude, I needed to listen to you here and here and here and here. So don't let this be that moment. So, do Daniel
And
an email.
sorry to cut you off, but we actually closed on our first property in Ohio with the REIT at an 11.3% cap rate.
No shit.
We've got another one. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it came through this morning. We've got another one under contract at 12.5%. So we've got a blended cap rate right now on our first two properties of 11.8, which is pretty great. So I'll just make sure that everybody kind of knows what's going on there.
Dude, and I've told you guys this, and Daniel's talking to my sister in the background back channel. When my sister, who runs Dune Capital in New York, sends me an article from the Wall Street Journal, like, hey, this psychedelic stuff is really catching on. Folks, we're we're at the leading edge of this. So I've been at the leading edge of too much in my life, and this is the moment. So I could not be more fired up. Yeah, Mike, I think we just answered that. When does the funding window close? Pretty soon. This is going to be the only kind of raise, and we're going to close the doors and get airborne. So act today. If you're digging this, shoot Daniel an email and let's get going. We're going to start cranking. So, and if you're in town during hockey season, let Daniel and I know, and we'll throw you in the box at a Panthers game, man, so you can.
Absolutely.
Dude, they're ripping. They're buzzing. They are.
Dude,
buzzing.
that was a great game. That was a great game last night, man.
Holy
really great game.
crap.
I'm going to see you. Well, you might not be there, but I'll be there Monday. I'm gonna take the Wolfman. There's no school, etc. So,
Oh, yeah.
Did you say that you guys are going to Colorado?
No. I'll be there, man. Yep. Susie and Keely have like a cheerleading competition. So 1:00 game Monday afternoon.
Okay.
So
Beautiful.
all right, guys and gals, I'm gonna get going. Car bomb. I'll see you later, my brother, and I'll get you all the replay to this shortly. All right. God bless. Fights on and namaste. I'll talk to you guys later.
You guys.